Hello everyone, welcome to Alamo Film Group's first episode of Make Your Movie, a show for filmmakers about filmmakers. Today in the studio we have with us CJ Goodwyn, filmmaker, director, producer of Trigoodwyn Productions. Welcome CJ.
Thank you for having me, I appreciate it.
I'm your host Nicole Esperon, and we are going to talk to CJ today about his feature film, Eyes of a Roman, currently in post-production. So CJ, tell me a little about the path that you took to become a filmmaker. What inspired you?
Sure. I think, when I was obviously younger, I kind of always wanted to be in film, and I think it started as an actor, but then you continue to grow and develop, and I was a huge Spielberg fan growing up, watching Jaws and Jurassic Park, things of that nature. And then I just started, watching and loving how films became how they were, basically. But I kind of got started late. I started, I think, when I was, 31, 32. I didn't go to film school. I just kind of did the Tarantino style or the Chris Nolan style and just sort of jumped right in. And I didn't do a short film either. I was like, I'm doing a feature film. I'm getting my buddies and my family together like most people do, I guess, when they start out. And we just jumped right in to GH5, and that was my learning experience of how to create film. And there's definitely a lot of headaches, but we pushed through, and that's how I, became a filmmaker. And then just from there, I developed and continued on my path.
Okay. What filmmakers do you most admire? Is there anyone that you model yourself after?
I think every filmmaker has their own style, but I definitely enjoy watching Spielberg. I'm a huge James Wan fan. I really like his horror films like Conjuring, Insidious. He has a new one coming out, which I'm excited for, actually. So those are sort of the ones that I like to watch and learn from. When I was doing Jackson, I watched The Conjuring and Insidious a lot, probably like 100 times.
Ooh,
just
wow.
kind of watching the style of James Wan and how really how like the camera moved and how the story developed and went. And what I like about his film, The Conjuring, is that it's really more like a love story, and then there's horror around it. And I just really thought that was a cool concept and a style in his own to show horror films. So yeah.
Nice. All right. So your first feature film that you just told us about with GH5, how did you know you were ready to tackle a feature film, and what was that experience like for you?
I don't know. I don't think whether I was ready or not, I don't know. I just decided that I wanted to do it. And I definitely wasn't ready. I don't know if anyone really ever is. I think the best way to learn is to jump in. And that's what I did. And I think from the experiences that I learned on GH5, let's see. Well, probably the worst thing that happened on GH5 is when we weren't filming, my brother, who was one of the actors, tore his Achilles playing soccer. And we were like midway through filming. And he called me up. He's like, hey man, I tore my Achilles. I'm like, oh no. And of course I felt really bad for my brother. I was there for him. Did he even talk about the film? And then, he just apologized. He's like, I think I'm sorry I ruined your film. I was like, you didn't ruin my film, my friend. If you still want to go for it, we're going to make it happen. And so that's what we did. Anyone that watches GH5, I always challenge them to see if you can tell if he had a torn Achilles, because we just did camera placement and movement and kind of just stationed him in areas to make the film work without having him walk around or anything. So I was proud of that. And you definitely have to think outside the box when you make films, and that was definitely one of those situations that I had to.
Well, I couldn't tell.
There you go.
The film, so
there you go.
This is news to me.
Yeah, so I learned movie magic very quickly. So.
All right. Well, your first film that had a significant level of success was Jackson. So why do you think that audiences connected with that film?
I think there's a lot of reasons. I can't really pinpoint one. It was my second feature, so obviously my talent and experience was better. on GH5, I met a great actor. His name's Les Best, and I came to him with the idea of Jackson. And luckily for me, he signed on as the lead. And Les is an experienced actor. He's been doing it for 30, 40 years, and he really took that level of acting to the level it should be when you make a film. And then just the storytelling, I feel like, was better. I knew how to do everything better. Camera, lighting, sound, all that good stuff. But then even on the business side, right? A lot of filmmakers and artists, including myself when I started, we don't always know what to do after the film's done. And it's like, well, how can I make money? How can I get it out to the people? I'm just going to put it on YouTube. And you get like 100 people that watch it. It's mainly family and friends. Like, well, that's all good, but I want more than that. And so I just researched and did a lot of stuff. And for Jackson, I advertised and marketed all the horror Facebook groups, a lot of the horror podcasts, and just connected with them. And so I dropped the trailer probably about 9 months before Jackson came out, and really pushed it, mainly on Facebook and YouTube and things of that nature. And we got like over 350,000 views on the trailer alone, which helped. We built up the Facebook page of Jackson, kept the audience members engaged. So when we did drop it, they knew when it was coming. And I released it on Amazon Prime, which any filmmaker can do, by the way. You can release it on Amazon Prime as long as you have the right, like the codecs, and you do their formatting the way they want it. Any filmmaker can put it on there. Now, Amazon Prime's gotten a little different. I was kind of on the tail end when Amazon Prime was paying the filmmakers pretty good on the indie side. And then I got in when it dropped, unfortunately. So we were making pretty good money, and then when I got in, it was like at 6 cents, like an hour, and then it went down to like a penny an hour. So I kind of missed the money-making part of that. But on the view side, on Amazon Prime, we got, I think it's about over 200,000 people watched the movie, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But I didn't really make any money off of it, which isn't that awesome. Made some, but not much. But you kind of get that exposure, which was fun, and your name starts to kind of appear more. And so when that happens, you get to work with kind of bigger and better, and kind of keep going up the ladder.
Nice.
So.
All right.
Yeah.
So your first 3 feature projects were horror films about families. GH5 was about 2 brothers, Jackson centered on a father and son, and Goodnight Allenby revolved around a husband and wife and their children. Is there a conscious thing for you? Is that how much did you draw on your own relationships when you were writing?
Sure. I think, I don't like to speak for everybody, but I think a lot of writers, and including myself, we typically use things that have happened to us in our life for inspiration or writing material or things of that nature, and things that mean something to you. Whenever I write something, I write with a lot of agendas, sometimes hidden agendas, or deep meanings that mean something to me. And so in GH5, it was about family and the brothers and things of that nature, which my brothers and I have always been close. And so that film was really about helping the brothers out, and then, watching us kind of pull ourselves apart in a horror film, and how tragic that can be, which turned out to be very sad, actually. And then Jackson, that was centered more around the father-son situation. And my father and I have a great relationship. I think a lot of parents with their children, there's always ups and downs. My dad and I had a little bit of a rough patch, and during that time is when I wrote Jackson. But I'm happy to say my dad and I are good. But during that time, it was a little rough, and so I drew inspiration from that. And the result was showing a great actor, Les Best, just showcase how blind he was to the love of his son in the movie. And you know, it was a horror film, but it was a huge drama. And I don't know, sometimes you just kind of get lost in your own creations and things of that nature. And you know, it was nothing to like hurt my dad or anything, and just kind of pulled from that moment in our life where him and I were on the same level. But we're good now. Love you, Dad. You know, it's all good. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Well, a lot of filmmakers tend to stick to a certain genre, but you shifted gears quite a bit with Eyes of a Roman. So tell me how that came about.
So for about, I don't know, at least 8 years, I've had this idea of doing a Roman type film. And Ben Jones is one of my friends, and he's an actor, and he's actually in Eyes of a Roman. He plays one of the barbarians. And I used to kick this idea with him for a long time. In fact, he trained and worked out for probably 10 years because he knew it was coming.
Wow.
And, you know, I just love the history of Rome. I love that time period. I love Caesar and Spartacus and Marcus Crassus and the whole story. And I just thought that when I was making the film, you know, what can I bring different that hasn't been seen yet with the history? So in Eyes of a Roman, we do touch on real life events. You know, it does follow a Roman soldier. It is it's the day before the last battle between Spartacus and Marcus Crassus. And I thought a lot of people have seen Julius Caesar a lot and Pompey a lot, but not really Marcus Crassus too much. And so that's kind of what generated me to start that story. But then I wanted it to be more, so I created a side story. And so hence the title Eyes of a Roman. We follow a Roman in his journey where, you know, what happens to these soldiers, okay? So that's kind of what it is, and it's a soldier that has to make choices. It stemmed from what happens in today's world. You can take it from having an argument with your parents, all the way to politics, Democrat, Republican, whatever. You can really go that deep if you want about choices. And obviously the Romans were enslaving and killing innocent people. And in this film, one of the Roman soldiers sees this and grows a conscience, or he becomes brave enough to step up to the plate. Because what's fun about the film, and one of the reasons why I wrote it, I feel like a lot of people in today's society are afraid to say something, but for many reasons. I mean, if you have to provide for your family, and you have a job, a lot of times you're not going to stand up to your boss and say something, because if you get fired, well, then you can't provide for your family.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean. So it's like, well, what happens if you're like, you know what, I'm going to stand up and do what's right. And what's fun about this movie is that sometimes when you stand up and do what's right, obviously there's consequences. And, you know, in this story, you know, it's a pretty bad consequence. And that's what's scary, you know, that's why I like bringing in like the real life scenario. It's like, yeah, you want to come to Washington and support? Yeah, man, I got kids and a family. Like, you know, I believe I'm happy what you're doing, but sorry, I can't. So sometimes people want to, sometimes people talk a big game, but sometimes you just really can't for a lot of different reasons. And I thought that'd be cool to show in the Roman time period, because this isn't different. It's happened from when we were created. It's been like this all the way through history. You know, people making choices and decisions, and you know, these consequences that come with it. That's kind of what builds the world, and you can take it from anything. That's what I thought was fun about the story, and that's how deep it goes. So.
It does. So it's a period piece, huge cast.
Yeah.
Action, choreography, period costumes. I mean, like, you turned San Antonio and surrounding areas into Rome.
Yeah.
So what made you decide it was time to tackle something so ambitious? I mean, you kind of talked about it a little bit more
Right.
earlier, but anything more you want to add to that?
You know, I just think I was talking about it before the show started with some of your nice crew members here. San Antonio has a lot of great talent and artists and filmmakers and singers and painters and dancers, all that stuff. And we kind of get overlooked. You know, when people think about the arts, they think Austin and then Dallas, things of that nature. And I'm like, well, what can I do to help put San Antonio more on the map and give back? And that's how I like to do things. Like when I make film, I'm never bigger than the film myself. I like to find people that are super humble. They want to be part of this journey. That's what I call it. And my team knows this from Eyes of a Roman. That journey was like every week. Enjoy the journey, guys, because that's what this is.
Yeah.
You know, once it's over, it's gone. Now we'll have that memory, which is the movie, but it's a journey, and it has been. You know, it was almost a year of pre-production before the film. I got Claire Villanueva on the project. She did the fight choreography, super nice, and she was training, gosh, I don't know, at least 30 to 40 actors. We met up 3 or 4 times in October to learn fight choreography, and that was the front line actors, right? And then you bring on about another 100 extras to be the fillers, and then you give them crash courses the day of. And I felt for Claire on some of these things, because you know, sometimes when you're making movies, you're out there, and as a director, you're like, that'd be really cool if we did that. And so there was one day we're doing something, and I called Claire over. I'm like, Claire, I want to add this to the film. It's like another 45-second fight scene. This is what I want. I need it in 15 minutes. And she was a little wide-eyed, a little bit. And then she said, okay, I got it. And she went over there and she choreographed something with these 45 extras in 15 minutes.
Wow.
And that was really cool to watch her do that. And kudos to her and her brothers for coming up with all that stuff. And I kind of got off topic a little bit there, but yeah, I just always want to give back. I love working with individuals. I wanted to showcase our community and the surrounding areas and the towns. Kerrville is actually a huge theater town. Fredericksburg's getting there as well. So, you know, I just kind of wanted to help, and you know, I thought it'd be pretty cool. And it definitely was ambitious. Some people said I was crazy and it was never going to work, because it was pretty much a no budget, low budget type film. But you know what?
Winter too.
It was in the winter, but I stand by that, because people were like, oh, it's so cold. I'm like, would you rather be out in the summer in Texas doing this? Like, no. True. And plus, I wanted to be historical accurate. And when Spartacus fell, it was in the winter time. And so we wanted to do that. Another thing that's cool is that our Texas landscape is actually very similar to their landscape, where Spartacus fell. And so it all just kind of fell into place. And you know, Derek Mayer, he's one of my friends, and he's got 1,600 acres of land out in Comfort, which is 40 minutes from San Antonio. And that's where we filmed the whole movie. Yeah. And it's a great experience. So many new friends and colleagues and journeys, and we still have our own private page, and people still comment on stuff. And it was the best experience I've ever had.
You really did build up a community with that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So good at that. So you're a writer, director, producer. Is there a role that really feels like the most natural fit for you?
Director.
Okay.
Yeah, director's my go-to. That's something that I love doing. I want to do it until I'm gone. I do enjoy creating stories and writing and trying to find these unique films. And you know, sometimes you touch on things that have happened. So like Eyes of a Roman, everyone knows about Spartacus. And so it's just coming from a different angle of history. And we showcased a lot of history. You know, there's a lot of historians that believe that Spartacus met up with Marcus Crassus a day or two before he fell. Well, we show that in the movie, which is a very cool scene. It's kind of like Batman and Joker meeting, right? It was really cool. I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
That's okay. Which role? You said director.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, director for sure. Then probably writing. And then acting. Yeah, I like to act every once in a while, but yeah, I definitely love to direct and give people a chance to live their dream. You know, some people, it's their dream just to be on the big screen. And I've had people hug me and cry and all that stuff just for giving them that moment. And that's my favorite part. It's watching the screening and just seeing everyone's reactions and just all the love, basically.
Nice.
Yeah.
So Ron Howard has a great quote where he says, "Eventually, every film you make will find a way to break your heart." Do you agree with that? And anything stand out in your film career as a real heartbreaker?
Let's see. So Eyes of a Roman, we had a really hard day. Everyone did great. A lot of extras. It was a very tough scene, and our footage got damaged. Try to get it recovered, did all those things, try to find the pros to recover it. Nope. It was gone. And that was heartbreaking. I was okay. I was angry. It was frustrating. But my heart broke for all the other people that were on the project. All the extras that couldn't make it to the redo day. Well, that will now not be in the film because our damaged footage. And to me, that's heartbreaking because they traveled. Some people came from Corpus or El Paso or Houston or whatever. And that was their day. And for me, that hurts a lot. And I apologized a ton. And luckily for me, our group of people that were on the project, even the ones that could never make it back, they just said the nicest things, which is almost kind of worse. Like, just be mad at me. Nope, I love you, CJ. I'm so proud of you. And so they're giving you love bombs. So you're just sitting in your house just like, oh, you know, like tears coming down your face. And it's like, man, I wish I was doing my tear scene now. You know, it's just like.
So what advice would you give to a filmmaker who might have a few short films under their belt and they're looking to make their first feature film?
I think it's, you know, there's the normal stuff, you know, like do your homework, make sure you have your ducks lined up, you know, you got the proper crew you need, audio is the most important, make sure you got good audio. If you don't have good audio, the film won't go anywhere. So audio, you know, then obviously the normal stuff, cameras, DPs, a good crew, all that stuff. But I think, you know, when it comes to a feature, I think the story is important. If you have a great story and something that people care about, then I think you'll find that a lot of people will jump in, even if it is no pay, it's a little pay. Eyes of a Roman, I didn't pay. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, but everybody knew that going in. But everyone was so passionate about wanting to be on a Roman film that it worked. And we had over 250 people that worked on Eyes of Roman, which is just kind of insane to me when you think it being a no-budget type movie. So I think if it's your first featured film, you know, definitely do your homework. If you're the director, you have to lead by example. So that means you got to jump in. You can't just sit there and bark orders. I think people will tire of that, especially if you're not paying them. You really have to lead by example. You know, if you're out there doing it and you're doing more and you're working harder than anyone else on the project, then it's really hard for them to not keep going. They're like, well, he's doing all that stuff. You know, so just be ready to fight and grind. It's not going to be perfect. A lot of things are going to go wrong, but but you have to be strong enough to handle that and come up with a different solution, even if it's not one that you wanted. But something's better than nothing, and just figure it out. You know, don't let anything stop you. I had COVID, I had no budget, and I had a snowstorm that delayed my film for 2 weeks. And then Texas decided, hey, no power, guys. And so it's like, that could have derailed the film. And that was halfway through filming. But it didn't. You know, we just pushed it. You stay in communications. And you just don't give up. I'm telling you, man, making a film is so hard. It's really hard. So if you've done short films and you've never done a feature, and let's say you've done like a 10-minute short film. Well, it's basically doing 9 short films in 12 weeks. So, good luck. It's a lot of hard work. And make sure you have at least 3 or 4 people in your corner that you can lean on, because you're going to need it. And you definitely need to find some people you can trust, that can be there for you. So if you do fall, which it's okay, all right? It's okay if you fall, as long as you pick yourself up. And it's always nice if you have a few people there to catch you. And I gave that example of losing the footage. I mean, I can't tell you about the scene. The people know on the film. It was one of the hardest scenes. And I was in that one. And it was so hard. It's just so heartbreaking. And my team, all the extras, all the cast and crew, they picked me up. And I did. That was one that I fell. I was going to keep going, but that one hurt. And they all picked me up.
Nice.
And yeah, and that's why this is the best filmmaking experience I've ever had. Because it doesn't always kind of work like that. You know, sometimes you do films, it's like, you know, you're kind of doing a lot, and you don't really have a lot of support. So find the support. Don't be afraid to jump in. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's really rare if you make a perfect film. But I mean, it's better to make a film than to sit there and rewrite everything for 10 years and just keep putting it off than not doing it at all. So I would tell the filmmakers to jump. Don't be afraid to jump. Like, well, what do? I don't know anybody. Okay, well, there's plenty of information on Facebook. Find these groups, go to these meetings, reach out and message. You can message me if you want. I have people message me all the time for information or feedback. They want me to watch their shorts. They send me scripts. They want to join my crew. All that stuff. And that's how you do it. You just got to reach out. And you know, some people might close the door on you, but in my experience, about 80% of the people that I've worked with over the last 10 years open their doors. So you got to be tough. It's not fun when people close the door in your face, but okay, I'm not going to work with that person. You just move on. So it's really that simple. So just don't let your brain get in the way. You know, jump in, go for it, have fun, and bring people's dreams to life, right?
Nice.
Yeah.
So are you looking past Eyes of a Roman yet? Is there anything you want to share on what's next?
Yeah, you know, I think for me personally, I think it's important to always have sort of the next project ready. I can't speak on filmmakers, on what they do, but for myself, you know, I'm trying to build my own sort of fan base and brand and things of that nature. And so I don't want to wait to release another film like one every 3 or 4 years. You know, my goal is to try to get one out every year or year and a half. So yes, to answer your question, I do have a film that I'm already kind of writing a script for. I already have a producer on it. I got some cast ready and crew ready, sort of behind the scenes. And I'm looking to actually start filming that January of 2023. Eyes of a Roman, you know, it'll be done in the winter, probably January or February coming up. Then it's the festivals, And then after the festivals, I'm doing what's called four-walling. And I'm actually going to be traveling the country to independent film where they have their own theaters and splitting revenue costs with the theaters, which kind of goes into a different conversation of distribution and how do you make money on film, which we can talk about another time. But to answer your question, yes, I have another film coming. And then I actually have a horror trilogy that we're going to knock out. And it's very aggressive. And my plan is actually to film 3 feature films in 6 months.
Wow.
And then release each one film, 1 year after the next.
Wow.
So potentially, I have 5 films that will be released in the next 5 years. And so you have one come out every year. You keep that fan base going, build your audience, and then hopefully with that comes some money and some funds. So you can keep doing what you enjoy and you love and do it all over again, right? So that's sort of what I got coming. Yeah.
I'm anxious to see what you put out next.
Well, my next one, I'm not going to say what it is, but it is late 1800s.
Oh.
So it's another period piece.
Wow.
And it's got the vibe of like the movie Seven.
Oh.
So we'll be R-rated and kind of gritty, and it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's not a horror film, but it's going to be fun. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so the last question I've got for you is, what is a movie you have seen recently that you're recommending to your friends?
Oh, let's see, recently. I did go see, I think it's called The Night House that came out, another horror thriller. And I wasn't really expecting too much. But it actually turned out to be a really fun film. I really liked it. It was a really fun horror drama type film. And it pulled from so many different films. That's what's fun, like if you're a filmmaker. I really try to watch the movie without doing that. But a lot of people in the industry, they'll be like, oh, missed a light there, like, oh, they forgot to pull focus there. You know what I mean? But in this film, they pulled from like The Invisible Man, and they pulled from Stir of Echoes, and they pulled from The Shining, and they just all these different things, and they kind of collaborated into one movie, and it worked. But if you're a fan of horror and you know all these films, then you will see that in the movie. But it was really fun to see how they twisted all that together and made it work. And that's just another example of just pulling from different people's films or ideas or things of that nature. And yeah.
Well, CJ, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here today. So that does it for this episode of Make Your Movie. And if you would like to be a guest on the show like CJ, just send us a message on Facebook, Alamo Film Group, and we will get in touch with you. So I am Nicole Esperon. Now, go make your movie.